Your kid is struggling with their confidence in the game and you're wondering what to do. You're looking for trainers, you're looking for camps, clinics, teams to try to find the answer, and you feel like you're just digging through puzzles and you can't find the right pieces. So I'm going to talk about that today, and usually I'd have my notes with me over here, kind of go through it, but I've been talking with a number of families whose kids will be attending our summer basketball camp and who also will be playing for our club basketball team this season. And that's the one word that's come up across the board from everybody. So I'm going to go into it and just freestyle from here. Enjoy. The number one word I hear parents say when I have these meetings with them is confidence. I need my kid to develop more confidence. And when they fill out the pre-program player evaluation form for our camps or our club teams, it's the one word that comes up across the board. That and shooting, right? They want their kids to become better shooters. And one of the areas where I find that kids lack confidence is when they're in games, they don't know what to do. I noticed that a lot of times parents are looking for their kids to develop certain skills. I've talked to parents whose kids are doing one-on-one training sessions. They've gone to clinics and camps because they're looking for their kid to develop certain skill sets to be able to utilize that in games. Now here's the disconnect I find in that. When you're working with athletes and they're in a one-on-one setting, right? You're working with a trainer, but their biggest issue is when they're in games and they're not making the right decisions. They don't feel confident. I don't see where you're gonna gain the transfer of information from a one-on-one situation or just a one-on-none situation, because it's the trainer and the athlete, to a 5-on-5 setting. Now, if your athlete understands the game, they know what to do, maybe they got a bunch of open shots last game, but they weren't falling and you want to kind of make some tweaks, but they understand the game, then I feel like a one-on-one setting or working with a trainer can be beneficial. Or if your kid's just starting to play basketball, they're just getting into it, and while they're playing on a team and learning how to play the game, you want to make sure you're adding in those training sessions where they can get in like a daily volume of work, whether it's a certain amount of shots per day, working on their handles consistently, just building the repetition and getting the volume that they need to become more proficient in those skill sets. But if you feel like your athlete is playing in games and you've been going to trainers and you're like, I don't see where this is going, you're paying all this money, you're spending all this time, the issue really isn't the skills that they're learning. It's how they apply those skills and what they see in a game. You can spend an hour for a week every day working with a trainer on a kid's shooting. But when you watch them play, was it the fact that they kept missing shots or they can't get open? Was it the fact that they're just not getting open in the right areas? Or maybe when they get the basketball, they're facing double teams and triple teams against all these presses that teams will do in club basketball. It's not so much the shooting is the issue, it's the decision making. It's dribbling too early when the defense is approaching you. It's your teammates not being in the proper positions to make the pass out of a double team in the corner at half court. It's when you're on the weak side of the floor, not just running to the paint and just yelling ball, 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 and then hoping when you get it, just throw the ball at the rim. It's where do I stand when this happens? I've been working with our club teams, and one of the things we've been doing is putting in different actions within the flow of our practices. And every one of our coaches will run something different, right? Like for me, Coach Ken, Coach Alex, Coach Ram, Coach Oliver, Coach John, Coach G. Hopefully I'm not missing anybody. But like we have different teams, we have different players, we also have different philosophies. Now we agree on, I think, the foundation of what we teach and how we want basketball to look and how we want to apply it to kids. But everybody has a little bit of a difference in terms of their specifics, right? So I tell them though, when we're doing these things, certain things remain the same. The decisions you make have to be sound basketball decisions. So we talk about when we're setting, like pin down screens. We talk about pre-contact, on contact, post-contact with the screen. We talk about reading the defender. Are they going under? Are they going over? What are the things that we're looking for in the reads? We'll make off of that. If we're going off a DHO, what are the angles we're trying to attack? When do we want to make the cut? When are we going to fake the handoff? What happens if this defender is going to go ahead and step up and kind of force us up the line? We go side ball screen actions. Are they going to hedge? Are they going to go in ice? Are they going to blitz it? Are they going to switch it? How do we want to punish them in those situations? And what's our strategy for success? But I think a lot of times players get in situations and they're playing basketball and they're given the framework. Here's what it should look like. Now go execute that. But they're not given the subtle nuances of, okay, what happens if your team runs 5 out? You pass and cut all day. But what happens if the cutters are never open? What happens if on the catch, when the ball gets to the wing, that guy is double teamed, or when the ball gets to the corner? What are the reads you're looking for? What are the defenses you're playing against? If you're playing against a 2-3 zone, what are you trying to do? If you're playing against man-to-man, if they're in the gap, are they in ball denial? And again, I can go on and on and on, but hopefully you're getting the picture that it's less about, can your kid shoot with perfect form in that situation, or more, can your kid look at what's happening on the court? Can they make the right decision? And at the same time, can the rest of their teammates come to the same conclusions? A lot of times, and again, I'll speak for my team personally. I know last year we had an issue where at times, we played in some tough games, and I think we have a good team. I think across the board I have a talented group of players. And when we play well, we're tough. But when we're playing not together, it makes it difficult for us to be successful, and it leads to players not trusting each other. And then, players have discussions, and it comes out where, I didn't believe this player could do this, and then this player has to force certain things. And this isn't to call anybody out. This is across the board. Every player goes through that. And as a coach, my responsibility is to make sure our players are on the same page. We understand what we do, what are our rules, what are the things that we play, what are the things that we do when we play basketball that are consistent across the board? Like, what is our strategy? What is our system? And for me, my job is to make sure I put a system in place that players can look at something, see a certain defense, see how they run that defense, make the proper reaction, but across the board, know what we're supposed to do. For example, if, you take a group of kids and they're, going to go to the mall, from school, that shouldn't be something that's confusing. They all understand, they're going to take the bus, they're going to go down a certain number of stops and get off. But through that, they have to read and react to certain situations. Where do I sit on the bus? What area has enough seats for us all to sit? Maybe you're sitting down and somebody walks in, who's having trouble standing. You might get up and make the choice, but all your teammates understand, hey, that's a good decision. When you cross the street, you all know to look both ways. One person isn't just jamming through. Hopefully everybody understands, through a systematic approach to how to achieve a goal and get to a destination, you can all understand how to do that together. And it's the same way in basketball, right? Like, our job is to get the basketball to the rim. How do we achieve that based off of the obstacles in front of us? And if we see the obstacles and know how to navigate around those obstacles, if they're playing a zone, what type of zone? Odd front, even front zone. If they're playing man-to-man, is it strictly man-to-man? Are they trapping more in situations? What's their rule in the post? Are they going to double the low post? Are they not? How do they guard ball screens? These are all things you start to navigate when your kids understand the game. And I'm going to kind of go back to it a little bit. And now that I've talked about that, let's look at how do we build confidence in players. You build confidence in players through knowledge. The more knowledgeable you are, and the more you trust that knowledge, and you have reliable experiences and information to back up that knowledge, that it will get you to a level of success, that's when you gain confidence. For example, if your team walks into a basketball court and your team is good, and you see another team isn't good, you're confident. You're like, oh, we got this. You're a little bit excited. If you've studied for a math test, and you've gone back and forth, it's in and out, you walk in confident, you get the test, you look at the paper, and you're like, I got this. You feel confident. In either of those two situations, if you don't feel prepared, you don't feel confident. You don't know how you're going to beat this team that's really good. You don't know how you're going to pass this math test because you don't understand what's the first thing you're looking at. You're going to run into situations where your confidence drops. And giving you more tough teams to play against isn't the answer. Giving you more math exams to fail isn't the answer. It's preparing you to do that, and then giving you checks along the way that demonstrate mastery of the skill or knowledge that you can come away as proof that the knowledge is correct. So if you're in math class and you're studying, and all of a sudden you get the information from your teacher, then you get homework. The homework is the check that tells you if you get this or not. And then you can go back and ask questions. And then when you get the test, hopefully you've gone through the repetition and the rechecking and the fixing of things to make sure you're confident with what you know. And then hopefully you come away with a good grade. It's the same way in sports. And it's not a matter of, can I teach my kid how to count better? My kid has a calculus test. Like, I need to teach him how to count better. He's got to learn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or I really got to teach this guy. He's got to get down to the basics. 2 + 2. At some point, it's not so much like the individual skill sets. It's how I apply the skill sets that get there. And that's the biggest area where I think when people are looking for their kids to be confident, so many things are thrown at them. They see all these things out there, from different training, methods, different trainers, different, training tools, different programs, and everybody's promising they can get you here. You see this kid over here is playing for this team and he's really good, and you think it's automatically going to apply to your kid. Well, if that kid plays for that program, it must make my kid better, right? But let's be honest, a lot of programs, you're going to go somewhere, they're going to have tryouts, they're going to pick the best players. So unless that program developed that kid from start to finish, say, hey, we can take these kids, and as long as they want to work hard and they want to develop and you're going to be consistent, you're going to get them here regularly, we're going to help them get better, then yeah, they can take credit for that. But let's be honest, most programs over there just taking other people's kids, other people's players, and then calling it, look what we did. But that's the frustration. You're a parent, and then you see this, and you think the development just took place here, and my kid's going to get this, and they're going to learn these skills, and they're going to be like that best player. But again, that best player might play for like 6 different teams. It's just a hired mercenary, right? So when we talk about confidence, I bring it back to that subject. Didn't mean to go off on a tangent there. Your kid's confidence is going to come from the knowledge that they possess, the information you gain. One strategy I talked to a parent about was when you're looking at film, break it down into small chunks. Again, I've gone, how long is this? I've already gone 11 minutes. Most of you might have checked out. If you're still here, awesome, thank you. I appreciate you for being honest. But when you're watching film with an athlete, break it down into like 2 or 3 plays or possessions that happen in the game, right? And this should take you no more than about like 5 minutes or less to do, right? If you're looking at all 3 and going through it, the whole thing should be about 5 minutes or less. If you watch the whole thing, they're probably checking out, and they're probably not looking at what you want them to look at. But break down, and the first 3 things you want to look at, what are 3 plays they did well? 3 passes they made great decisions, and then have them talk through it. Hey man, that was a great play right here. Just want to run this through in transition. You made that great pass down to your guy who ran to the rim. You got the layup. What did you see before you got there? Well, I remember that, in practice we talk about transition. There's a rim runner, and when I get the outlet pass, always look up the floor, and then the guy was there, and I just saw and made the pass. Awesome, great. And then do that for about 2 other options. When we ran the side ball screen and I had the basketball, and then my teammate screened for me, and then after my first dribble, I saw that they were going to switch, and then it left this gap open, and I hit a pocket pass in between the two, and my teammate was able to get a layup. Awesome, great. So now you have things that you can look at. You're reinforcing great decisions. And then you can get to something that maybe didn't work out. You can say, hey, I saw you took the shot over here. Hey, I love the fact that you were confident to shoot it. What did you see right there? Well, I thought it was open here, but then, okay, good. You took the shot, probably a little bit forced. Did you see anybody else open? Because see how the double team is coming at you? Who's supposed to be guarding that guy? Oh, the guy that came over here. So who could you pass to? Oh, my teammate over here. So now instead of saying what are you doing? You made the wrong pass. This is terrible. You're highlighting what they did. Hey, I love the fact that you took the chance to take the shot. No problem with that. You collected a double team. You did something special. You made people respect you as a shooter. You made the defense collapse on you. Now that you're doing that, you understand that people see you as a threat. All right. When coaches yell, that's a shooter, they're talking about you. They're talking about you. Right. So now that you got that, is there someone else on the court that might have a better shot at this time? Oh yeah, the guy right here. If I turn and pivot, I can make the pass there. Great. Awesome. So now instead of just ripping these kids apart, you're giving them avenues where they can understand that what they did was successful, but there could have been another way to reach a different level of success, right? You don't have to be the guy that makes your kid do 100 push-ups because they made that one mistake. Teach them something. Tell them what it was. Make sure they understand it. Reinforce your concepts and what you want them to know, and then do it in a way where they can listen and understand. One of the things I've been telling my players is that I'm going to try to talk to you like this, the way I'm speaking now. When I started coaching almost 20 years ago, this was me, just talking, hey. And then I got to a team where I had a girls team, and they were, telling me, hey, coach, you kind of got to get honest a little bit more. We need you to be a little more tough when it comes down to things that you tell us. And I was like, but you already listen. Sometimes you kind of need that fire, and then that kind of opened the floodgates. And then I tend to get a little more, animated, I should say, at times. And then I read a book called Conscious Coaching, and from I think a guy named Martin Rooney. I'll look it up again. Great book, quick, easy read. I read that and I was like, yeah, I need to change my philosophy. And every year I read that book before I start coaching, just to kind of reinforce that, and just how I want to get my voice across to players and how they receive it. I talk about delivery. If you order food and the delivery, shows up late, and your food comes all messed up, you're going to get a product that you can't really utilize. It's the same way with speaking. If I'm going to deliver my message to athletes and I'm just screaming, yelling in their face, all they're going to see is this monster. They just hear the noise and the emotion and not the message, and I'm delivering information that they can't receive. But if I just talk to you like this, in a way that's normal, the message and information can be received a lot better, and then I can hopefully expect that athlete to transfer that to actual gameplay without feeling like they're super nervous or worried that they keep making the same mistake over and over again and I'm just going to yell at them. I tell them, I'm assuming you all came here because you want to get better at basketball and you want to learn. And if that's the case, I'm going to talk to you just like a person. But if I have to go beyond this, then I'm not going to work harder. Like, your job is to receive the information. My job is to deliver it to you and then make sure that I reinforce it. But I'm not going to yell at you and scream at you to get that through. If you're self-motivated to be here, and if you want playing time, and if you want to be a contributor to this team, there's a responsibility you have. It's not just all on the coach. It's not just all on the player. It's a combination. But that's one of the things I tell my players. You're responsible for receiving information. If you didn't understand it, let me know, and I'll try my best to kind of deliver it in a different way that makes sense to you. But if this isn't enough to get your attention, then I'm not going to work harder. All right? I'm going to make sure that I just teach you what I'm able to, but hopefully from a perspective you understand that I treat you like a human being. I think that's all I wanted to get through today. I didn't want to take too long. This is already a 16-minute video, but if you made it through this far, thank you for that. I know I kind of went on. I might make another one of these videos and kind of break it down a little bit more, but I've talked to a number of families, and the biggest thing about confidence is just information. The more information your athlete has, the more that they trust information, and the more that they can apply that on the court, that's going to create a more confident athlete. It's not more layups or more shooting drills or better handles. Your kids already play at recess. They can do those things already. But when they're playing in real game situations against teams that are playing under systems and strategy and making good choices, you're battling choices versus choices. You're not battling like who's got the best handles versus handles. You can go do one-on-one like that at the park, but when you're playing basketball, it comes down to strategy. Whose strategy and execution is better? The team that is able to do that is typically able to win more games, or at least the games can be more competitive. And then the more your kids can get used to making better decisions, the more you're going to see their skill sets shine on the court, versus if you just focus on their skills and then just hope they decide to make the right choice later on. And it's usually not going to happen that way. So again, if you made it this far, thank you. I appreciate it. I know this video was a little bit longer than I wanted it to be, but if you got some good information out of it, or just some concepts or just ways of thinking to approach how you want to get your kid better at basketball, more confident, I hope this helped out. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Check us out at sfbasportsperformance.com. You can also follow me on Instagram at SFBA Sports Performance. We have our SFBA Summer Hoops Academy that's coming up this summer here in San Francisco. We have our micro season that I'm doing in March, starting up this weekend. That's a shortened season where we practice and we get to teach basketball, and then we play in a tournament. It's first come, first serve, but it's really my way of getting away from just training and teaching basketball. I don't consider myself a basketball trainer. I'm a basketball coach, and I want to teach the game. So we got a few things coming up. So if you have questions, let me know. Hit me up. And again, like, subscribe, all that stuff. And I appreciate y'all. Peace.